The weight of the rising tide. The room was not a room at all. It was a gravity well. Kaito sat in the center of the dark space, his shoulders hunched under the invisible weight of 1,000 whys and how could theys. The air felt like wet wool, thick with the scent of old wood and stale anger. Every memory of the betrayal was a stone stitched into his clothes, making even the simple act of breathing feel like a marathon. He was anchored to a floor that refused to let him rise. Beyond the grime-streaked window, there was a world that didn't hurt. Kaito watched the people in the distance, bathed in a perpetual golden hour, dancing on hills where the grass looked impossibly soft. If I were there, he whispered, his voice cracking, I wouldn't feel like this. If I had their life, their luck, I'd be whole. He obsessed over the fence line, convinced that his healing was a geographical location he simply couldn't reach. A flicker in the corner caught his eye. It was Echo, a shimmering, distorted version of himself that lived in the dark corners of the room. Echo didn't speak with words. He spoke with the heat of Kaito's own rage. Look at them. Echo seemed to snarl through a jagged sneer. They have everything while you rot in here. It's not fair. You should be angry. You should stay angry until the world pays you back. The anger was a fire that provided no warmth, only ash. Kaito realized that staring at the green grass outside was just another way of staying locked in the dark inside. He closed his eyes, letting the what-ifs go. The dam behind his eyes, held steady by pride and bitterness for so long, finally began to buckle. A single tear, hot and heavy, traced a path through the dust on his cheek. He didn't just cry, he unraveled. The tears came in a deluge, a saltwater sanctuary that began to pool at his feet. He stopped fighting the sadness and let it submerge him. As the water rose, the heavy stones in his pockets and the iron chains on his chest didn't feel like anchors anymore. They felt like leaden weights that didn't belong in the water. He began to unbutton the heavy coat of his past, letting it sink into the depths. The room vanished, replaced by a vast, internal ocean. Kaito stopped treading water and simply floated. He realized he didn't need to swim to the green hills. He just needed to let the current of his own honesty carry him away from the wreckage. The river, he cried, was a path, not a pit. He looked up at the stars, feeling the cool water wash away the grit of his old life. As he drifted, the world below began to change. He saw his old environment, the heavy room, the jagged shadows, shrinking beneath him. This was elevation. He realized that the version of him that survived that room was too big to fit back into it. The air grew thinner and colder, but it was also cleaner. The heaviness he had felt wasn't just his trauma. It was the atmosphere of a place he had outgrown. Separation was the hardest choice. To grow, he had to leave the Echo behind. He saw the shadow self standing on the receding shore of his memory, shouting for him to come back to the safety of the anger. Kaito reached out a hand, not to grab hold, but to wave a final goodbye. I can't carry you where I'm going, he whispered. You're too heavy for the heights. The higher he climbed, the less the green grass mattered. From this height, he could see the whole map. He saw that the hills he envied were just one part of a vast, complex world. He wasn't looking for someone else's meadow anymore. He was looking for his own sky. The anger had been a compass that only pointed backward, but his peace was a sun that lit the way forward. Kaito stood at the summit of his own spirit, his feet planted on solid, thin air. He wasn't the boy in the dark room anymore, nor was he the person he thought he should be. He was simply himself, scarred, elevated, and light. He took a deep breath of the mountain air, turned his back on the past, and began to walk into the dawn. The journey hadn't fixed him. It had freed him,